2020 candidates are converging on Iowa this weekend, hoping to win over voters in a key battleground state. Montana Governor Steve Bullock and former Vice President Joe Biden will give soapbox speeches at the state fair this afternoon.
This comes after Biden slammed President Trump during a speech yesterday in Iowa. He talked about the president's rhetoric and his view on guns after the latest deadly mass shooting in El Paso and Dayton.
Trump's anger, hate, and divisiveness, pitting Americans against one another, preying on our divisions, and doing nothing about the endemic and the epidemic of guns is fueling a literal carnage in America.
For more on this, we want to bring in CBSN political reporter Caitlin Huey-Burns. She's following the latest from Des Moines, Iowa. Caitlin, thanks for joining us. But since Biden launched his campaign, he's maintained a strategy of just constantly slamming President Trump. He appears to still be the front runner at this point in the 2020 race. It's early, though. How's this sitting with voters in Iowa, and what can we expect to see and hear from Biden's speech today?
That's right. When Biden launched his campaign, he pitched it as a battle for the soul of America. And over the past several weeks, he's really come under fire from Democrats on all sorts of issues, from criminal justice to health care. Now he is trying to refocus his campaign squarely on the president, kind of get back to the original theory of the case. And so we saw him give that speech yesterday that was really well received, I will say, among voters, among Democratic activists that believe that this is the kind of fight that they want to see from the candidates. We'll see kind of how he's received today in Iowa. He's been campaigning here. I was with him a couple months ago here in Iowa when he was trying to kind of show that he's the front runner, but he has slid in the polls a little bit. So the question remains, can he keep up that support with this kind of sole attack on the president?
Well, he slipped a little bit because of 2020 candidate Senator Elizabeth Warren. She's come up a little bit in popularity in the polls. I know she's also been taking on President Trump during her trip to Iowa. In a new interview, in fact, she says in the New York Times, quote, he has given aid and comfort to white supremacists. He's done the wink and a nod. He has talked about white supremacists as fine people. He's done everything he can to stir up racial conflict and hatred in this country. What can you tell us about this strategy, and is it working with voters? Because I talked to someone recently who's looked at campaigns and said the more that you continue to divide and not bring people together, this could actually make things worse for the Democrats.
It's a great question, Jamie. And what's really been striking to me over the past several days is how comfortable Democrats have been in attacking the president on this issue, calling him, going so far as to call him a white supremacist, calling him out for racist comments and attacks. This is something different. This is a notable shift in the campaign where you're seeing Democrats in unison going after the president on this. Remember in 2016, Hillary Clinton gave a speech about the alt-right, about white supremacy in America, going after then candidate Trump. Democrats after 2016 thought maybe we shouldn't pay attention, maybe we shouldn't focus as much on identity politics, focus more on the economy. Democrats now, though, feel that after the past several weeks, especially when the heightened rhetoric coming from the president, going after those 4 congresswomen in the United States Congress, going after Elijah Cummings, has heightened this tension, and they believe they have to respond in kind. But I'm going to be asking voters here in Iowa how they are perceiving that. Remember, it's kind of the middle of the summer here. People are starting to come back from vacation, starting to pay attention, and that's why it's so critical for these candidates to be here at the state fair where they can introduce themselves to voters, talk about their platforms, and talk about ways that they would help people here. But expect the issue of gun control to be a hot topic of conversation for Democrats here, coming out with their own proposals, going after the president, and trying to advance the conversation.
And Caitlin, the big story here, of course, is the ICE raids and immigration issues. There were massive ICE raids in Mississippi yesterday. How have the candidates responded to these situations now that they're starting to see pictures and hear details? And are we going to expect them to talk about it there in Iowa?
I would expect them to talk more about this. When President Trump was issuing the threat of ICE raids, you heard from Democrats running for president decrying the raids, saying that they were inciting fear in certain communities. You had several candidates introduce their own immigration proposals. Some of them include reforming ICE. You've also seen among the activist base of the Democratic Party, of course, calls over the past several months to abolish ICE altogether. So that's what they're trying to figure out. Immigration, I will say, has not been kind of the top concern for Democrats, voters that we've talked to in these battleground states. And it's also not a top concern as reflected in our polling across the country. But it is an issue where Democrats feel like they can contrast the president and really kind of point to how his policies are negatively affecting voters.
Well, I would assume one of those may have just come out this week in terms of the China trade situation. So we've seen several 2020 candidates release proposals for rural America. What issues matter? I'm assuming the one I just mentioned. And are these plans enough to win them support in Iowa?
Right. Here in Iowa, we had several candidates actually this week come out with new proposals. Kirsten Gillibrand, Elizabeth Warren, Amy Klobuchar among them, talking about everything from farm subsidies to expanding access to health care, protecting hospitals in rural areas. This is a way for candidates not only to be talking about these issues while they're in Iowa, but a way to kind of set them up for 2020. Because remember, they're trying to say that they can reclaim back some of those voters who voted for Obama before, then switched to Trump, particularly in a place like Iowa. President Obama won it twice. Trump, of course, won it by a significant margin in 2016. So Democrats are trying to say that they have policies that can appeal to rural America, that can appeal to those who they are trying to win back. We'll see if that's the case, but this is also an example of some of these Democrats trying to get back to local issues in a race that has been really pretty nationalized.
Now, the really important question, are you going to get corn on the cob or a corn dog this morning?
Oh, yeah, maybe some pork on the stick. It is kind of the most wonderful time of the year in Iowa. You know, one thing that they have this year that they didn't have last time I was here is goat yoga. So I think that might be something I'll try, or ask the candidates if they are up for that.
Please do.
But all the candidates are descending. That would make a good video, huh? All the candidates are descending upon the state this weekend. It's a critical caucus state. It's the first caucus state, as we know, and you have lots of candidates trying to vie for support. Again, people kind of coming back from their vacations, enjoying all of this. We're near a cotton candy stand, funnel cake. It's a tough assignment, but we are up for it and ready to see how they're received by the candidates.
Godspeed, Caitlin. Thank you very much for your time.